Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet. Hey everyone, it's Isaac Smolden. Welcome to episode 64 of the My House Podcast. I am very, very excited and honored to be joined once again on the show by Brad Alexander. And Brad, I will let you introduce our guest today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for having me on the podcast, and just excited about this project here. And so right here next to me is my good friend, Ramon Rodriguez, and he is an incredible human being for one thing, and he is the inspiration behind my latest book, which is Behind the Mask of Ramon Raccoon.
Thank you for those nice words, Brad. Yeah, I am Ramon. I am a addict in recovery. I am sober for 3 years. That is November 22nd, 2022, and I'm forever grateful for my new life.
Awesome.
Ramon, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor to meet you in person because I've only seen you in raccoon form for like the last 3 months while we've been working on this. So this book, Behind the Mask of Ramon Raccoon, the last time that you heard this and saw this was your graduation from Vita Nova. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
What is it that, tell me about the process of having your life condensed into this medium of children's book. What was your reaction the first time you heard this?
It was really awesome. I remember being in Vita Nova and watching my peers before me graduate, and if they had Brad as a clinician, he would always have these amazing stories, and I was always like, oh, I cannot wait to graduate and hear the story of what he has to write about me. It is very creative, and being able to see it in that form is kind of, it packs the same kind of meaning, but it also has like that little bit of lightness to it that's like a great resource for other people besides just people in the struggle, but people that are brought up in the struggle as well.
So when I talked to Brad last, Brad, I know you're a big fan of alliteration.
Yes.
So what is the logic behind making Ramon into this nice raccoon that we see here on the pages of the book?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the alliteration works, Ramon Raccoon, but also the mask, the whole theme behind that just came together because Ramon was hiding behind a mask, and as we worked together, it became apparent that he felt like if he could present himself as everything is okay, I'm okay, and not wanting other people to feel sorrow or concern for him, not wanting them to have negative emotions because of whatever he's dealing with, he wore this mask of a smile. And so it just all worked together, with the idea behind the raccoon.
Ramon, I know that you haven't actually seen the illustrations for this yet, so this will be the first time that you're actually looking at it. There's this scene just a couple of pages in, and it's this skateboarding scene, and it's really a really cool depiction of this moment. Is this part of the story, this bit at the skate park, is this something that you talked about with Brad during the course of your time at Vita Nova?
Yeah, I believe so. It is very accurate of my first time of using. It was, I do remember the day, very detailed, but I won't go into it. But it was a day of frustration, anger, and the way I would use that as an outlet was skateboarding. And it got to the point to where that outlet was no longer doing it for me. Mm-hmm. And I remember at the skate park, there was a gentleman there who I looked up to, and he was like, oh, well, we can just do this, and this is okay. Like, this is what the older people are doing. And it was just influence, and I was like, okay, yeah. And it was just, that was it.
Tell me about that moment, that opportunity that you had to get involved in treatment at Vita Nova. I imagine it takes a lot of courage to make that step and to make that choice.
Yeah, I mean, it was very scary. I remember I was going through the withdrawals of using, and I knew I had to make it. Like, I was in a dark place. Like, my now fiance was like wanting to leave me and move back out of state and leave, and I was like, well, this is my crossroads, and either I get it together or I lose everything. And once you get to that point, you realize something has to happen or it gets worse. It really does get worse. Like, rock bottom has a basement. I've heard that many times throughout the rooms in treatment. Like, it can get worse. And are those consequences I'm ready to face? Like, life, death, prison? Like, that doesn't sound like a life I want. So I remember going to the hospital and getting met by a True North crisis team member, and it was just like, I didn't have time to think. I remember I was just sitting in the ER, withdrawing, and within 20 minutes someone was there, and then a couple hours go by, I get released, and I'm at day one filling out the paperwork, and I remember I was given the option to go straight into it or spend Thanksgiving with family and friends. And I remember I was like, I haven't really told my family. Like, they probably knew because it's really hard to hide that kind of stuff
Right.
and that lifestyle. But I also was like, I need to say that one final, like, okay, this is me turning my life over. And so I spent that Thanksgiving with family. And then it was just immediately, like, the next morning, like, bag packed. Like, I didn't even pack a full bag. All I had was like 6 pairs of underwear and like 2 pairs of pants. That's all I had to my name. And so I packed that up and I went to True North, and it was the scariest thing, but it's definitely the best thing I've ever done.
So there's and those moments you're just describing in the book, there's this really great, it's an all black background, and that first page when you get to Vita Nova is when it's the first light page for a little bit. So Brad, I'll ask you, and I definitely don't need to use any names or anything like that. On this page, there's some of the other folks that are in Vita Nova with you, Ramon. And I'm going to ask Ramon if he knows, I'm sure he probably does because you heard it. There's a coyote who chased imaginary roadrunners. There's a horse who insisted he was actually a rabbit. There's an owl who claimed he could fly to outer space, and there's a cheetah who smashed all the mirrors in the house because she hated seeing herself. When it was read originally, you knew who all those individuals were.
Yeah, when you come in through those doors, it really is chaotic. Like, it was like loud. Like, I remember I walked through the garage. Funny little story. The intake, for the person that did my intake, had to call my PO and was like, gave him the spill of like, hey, we have Ramon. This is where he's going to be. Like, if we need to do all the legal stuff, we can. And then I remember he hung up, and the intake person was like, we totally got him, kind of just cracking a joke. like we just got away with it. I was like, what? No, it was a crazy fun experience. And then I walked in, and yeah, you just see all these characters, and you're just like, this is kind of where I belong. Like, as crazy as it may seem or looking in, but that's where I belong. That's where I needed to be.
Brad, there's a really important moment in this book, a couple pages devoted to it, to this kind of seminal moment while Ramon's at Vita Nova. Was this something that you had talked to Ramon about being in the story, or was this kind of the key memory that you have from his time at Vita Nova?
That was definitely one of the key memories I had. That moment was a moment of breakthrough that was just incredible to be a part of, and just watching him break down to get to that place where he could start building himself up again. And it's difficult, but it's this beautiful moment, because what's coming beyond that challenge and that difficulty is absolutely glorious. And so, yeah, to be a part of that in anyone's life is, it's incredibly humbling.
What do you remember about this moment in your story in Brad's office?
Man, I can't really see, but I know exactly what moment it is. It is I was probably like 2-3 weeks into Vita, and I was still kind of coming out of that, like, okay, this is my day to day now. And I remember I was in the bathroom and I was just like looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, oh, I don't want to cry. I remember just like, I don't know who that is. And I remember it was like that realization of like, I need to start deconstructing what I've built through my drug use, and I need to rebuild something I'm proud of, and I can look at in the mirror and be like, that is Ramon. That is who needs, that's what the world needs, is that's what the world needs me to look like when I show up. I can't be looking at myself and feeling all the thoughts and feelings that I were before.
Yeah. I mean, that is just such a perfect, I think, synopsis of kind of the heart of this story, and ties in so well with that theme of removing that mask. Spoilers, I guess, for the book. But you have this moment at the end where you have, and I guess tell me if this is what you had actually wrote down. You had a bonfire and you throw away the picture of your mask into the fire. Was that an actual moment as a part of your time at Vita Nova?
Not exactly like that, but I do remember Brad had me write a farewell letter to my old self, and that was super healing, because I remember during breaks we would have to take an hour out of the day to do homework or whatever we had to do for the week, and I remember I was just working on that, and I remember just shedding tears over that paper, just writing, like, pretty much burying like this old me and like coming out new, and it was very powerful just to have myself write that farewell letter to my old self.
A little bit of metaphor going on.
Yeah.
And I, Brad, as a clinician, this is something that a lot of, my coworkers that are members of the recovery community and the folks at like Jeff's Path and stuff do as a part of their treatment. What do you think the power of that farewell letter is for part of the kind of clinical journey for folks?
Yeah, I think powerful is the right word. And I think it's because it's an acknowledgement that your past doesn't define you. Your behaviors, the actions from the past, they don't define who you are. You get to define who you are. And, when someone has been steeped in addiction for so long, it's so easy to fall into that. That's who I am. That's how I define myself, because of the stigma. Society puts that on a lot of people. And so to see someone be able to address that and recognize that that doesn't represent who they are, and who they are at the core of their being, they get to identify that and start living out of those core values and beliefs that they have.
Ramon, 3 years later, 3 years sober, congratulations.
Thank you.
Who is Ramon today?
Oh man, I definitely rebuilt into this wanderer. I just love going out into nature and also just being with community. I have buried my roots deep in a group that we call, self-promotion, we call the Wild Ones, and we just operate out of churches and do prayer groups, and it's just been this phenomenal experience to rock with these group of people that are just on fire for the Lord, and it kind of motivates me to just keep like building. Like, it's not just like I've gotten 3 years clean and this is who I am. Like, it's just a constant process of building myself into a bigger and better man each day.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to do that with a community that loves and supports me.
Well, Ramon, thank you so much for sharing your stories. Thank you so much for agreeing to this project. Behind the Mask of Ramon Raccoon is available right now on Brad's Lulu site for purchase. We have made it available at cost, so whatever it costs them to print it and ship it to you is what you're available to buy it for. I know we have a lot of plans and events for the coming year, and we want people to pay attention to that. We have some more videos and stuff to do as well. So, Brad, I will give this to you.
Thank
allow you
you.
to present it to our friend Ramon Raccoon.
And Ramon, yeah, man, this is the first official copy, and I absolutely want you to have this, man.
Thank you.
I'm just so grateful to have been able to record your story and to put it here, and that you agreed to do this, to allow it to touch the lives of others, and especially getting into the hearts and minds of children. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I just thank you so much. It really is an honor, and I'm very grateful that, yeah, like 3 years ago, I definitely didn't think I would be definitely on a podcast taking something so like meaningful. Like, this is truly a blessing. So thank you, Brad.
Awesome. Yeah.
The My House podcast is recorded at the My House recording studio here in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor and the illustrator of Behind the Mask of Ramon Raccoon is Ozzie Keener. I'm Isaac Smolden for Brad, for Ramon. We'll see you next time.